Hi, guess who I'm talking to today? I'm Cheryl Kagan, very proud to be the senator for Gaithersburg and Rockville, and really proud to represent Maryland's high-tech corridor. Today, Kibbitzing with Kagan is going to feature Brian Rosen, who is joining us from Novavax, which is all over the news right now. Brian, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's great to be here with you.
Absolutely. So I have a bunch of questions. I know you are super smart about all the details of the vaccine, but I'm going to ask you to speak in mostly plain English so the rest of us can understand. And why don't we start with the exciting news lately about Novavax's success, where things are now, and what we can expect in the near future.
Sure. Well, yeah, it's been an incredibly exciting month, especially. The entire last year has been a whirlwind, but in the last few weeks, we announced the results from our phase 3 study in the UK, where we had tremendous results. We showed 96% efficacy against the original Wuhan strain, and 89% efficacy overall, including that UK variant strain that has been circulating. About half the subjects had that strain in them.
So what are the next steps? How soon will Novavax's vaccines be injected into arms?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
And so what we've said is that it will probably take another 2 to 3 months before we have a regulatory authorization, either by the UK or by the US, or somewhere else for that matter. And we're still waiting on the final results out of the UK. Those were the interim results that we announced. We should have the final results in another month or so. And then there's some additional data and work to pull together for those regulatory authorizations.
Okay, well, fingers crossed. A lot of people are hoping that since you are a Maryland-based company, that a bunch of the vaccines will go to Maryland first, but there are requirements, commitments, and expectations that they go around the country and around the world. Can you tell us about that? Whatever you already know.
Yeah, and that's true. In the US, we've been working with funding and partnership from what was known as Operation Warp Speed, and now it's just the US government. And they've been extremely helpful to us in our development pathway. And they are also working with the CDC and some of the big distributors to work on the distribution of the different vaccines. So really, we're following their direction. They will tell us where to distribute it to some central locations, and they will decide who needs the vaccine, which priority groups are ready for it, and which states and so forth. So we really don't have a say in which particular jurisdictions get the vaccine.
Right. So while it's developed at Novavax, where is it being manufactured? Obviously, the volume that's needed means that a lot of folks have to get involved. I assume you've got lots of locations around the world.
We do. We purchased a large manufacturing facility in the Czech Republic outside of Prague. And
Nice.
Other than that, we're working with a number of different contracting manufacturing organizations. I think right now we're in 7 or 8 countries with 7 or 8 different facilities. And in the US, we're doing most of our manufacturing with a group known as Fuji Diasynth in both in Research Triangle Park, North Carolina, and in Texas as well. And then some of the fill finish and the adjuvant are at other facilities around the US. So it's really a global effort, and even within the US, widespread.
Great. So I've been lucky to visit Novavax several times, actually, including last year with Governor Hogan, Mayor Judd Ashman, and others. Can you explain how Novavax's vaccine is similar to or different than the ones that are out there that we've already heard about?
Yeah, so I'm sure you've read that the two vaccines from Moderna and vaccine.
I wasn't
Moderna and
the name
right.
Moderna.
That's okay.
I was trying to
Moderna and Pfizer use an mRNA technology. We use a different.
In English, that means.
Well, they I'm not the scientist, so I'm not going to comment on their technology.
Okay.
But what I can tell you is we have a protein-based technology. So it is quite different. We actually do a sequence part of the virus itself, part of the protein. You probably heard of the spike protein. We also add an adjuvant to our vaccine, which is based out of a tree bark, a tree sapinin from Chile. And the end result, these components are mixed together, formulated together, filled and finished, and then and then it's used and produces a great immunogenic effect.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Now talk about, if you would, briefly, and then we'll pivot to something else. What's the care and feeding concept in terms of the sub-zero storage?
Mhm.
And I mean, what's going to be challenging or easy about?
Yeah, it's actually a really nice advantage of our vaccine, which is that it can be stored at refrigerator stable temperatures, 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, which is essentially refrigerator stable temperatures. So that makes distribution
Yep.
and administration much less challenging.
Mhm.
It's actually going to be quite a significant advantage for the providers out there who don't have to deep freeze
Huge.
the vaccine.
Huge. And 2 doses?
2 doses, about a little bit less than a month apart.
Okay.
So
About the same.
very similar to what you've seen, yeah.
Great. Okay. So I'm very proud that you're in Gaithersburg with 142 jobs currently and adding another 400 jobs coming later this spring. Can you talk about why you think Novavax chose to settle, stay, and expand in Gaithersburg?
Yeah, and we've been in Gaithersburg for since the beginning of this company. We've got so many advantages from being in Montgomery County and in Gaithersburg in this biotech hub, and even within that biotech hub, this vaccine hub. You've got AstraZeneca, you've got Emergent Biosolutions, you've got GSK, all really in this vaccine sector, and it's been great from a talent pool standpoint and growing our company so quickly. And like you said, globally, we were about 100, 150 people this time last year, and now we're well over 700 people. So it's just incredible. And now we've got some new facility space that we've bought some land, we've leased some office space nearby, and we couldn't be happier to stay in Gaithersburg.
That's great. Now let's pivot to you for a second. You've had a journey from Tufts to law school, and then nonprofit sector you've been involved, and then to tech and stuff. Why don't you tell me about what drew you to tech? And you've been able to sample working at several different tech companies.
I have, and I've been fortunate that I've had this career of being both in the nonprofit sector at the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society,
Yes.
Several really great biotech companies and pharma companies, and always with the goal of making sure that some of these novel therapies and vaccines ultimately can reach the patient, and without any of the obstacles that sometimes we read about, whether it's government restrictions or payer restrictions. It's been my job to essentially make sure that these products can reach the patients.
That's great.
Yeah.
Talk about Learning Undefeated, if you would. You were chair of their board?
Yeah, so I'm fortunate to be the chairman of the board for Learning Undefeated. Some people might remember it as MD Bio. So it's been a great organization. They do tremendous work in the STEM field and providing STEM education in the high school and the middle school. A lot of the underserved communities, especially focusing on them. The resources have grown, and we've just gotten so much ability to provide, especially during this pandemic time, to provide education to those who need it most, not just in Maryland, but actually outside of Maryland as well.
Thank you for giving back in that way. That's huge, and doesn't happen often enough. So thank you for that. Along the same vein, I was delighted. I've been delighted as I've toured both Novavax and other companies in my district to see the diversity, the increasing diversity. But when people think about STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and math, it is still not the obvious go-to for too many young girls and people of color. Tell me whether you think that's changing, what it's going to take to really get folks to feel welcome and really have a diverse cross-section of employees and aspirational employees.
Yeah, it's a good question. And honestly, hopefully people look at Novavax and see some of that diversity and some of the women who are leading our research organization, especially. It's been featured in a number of different articles and news events. So hopefully the young girls in the community can really look up and aspire to be like the women here at Novavax. But yeah, in the same vein, I think Learning Undefeated has played a large part in providing some of those key messaging and STEM education, again, to some of these underserved communities of color. And I think it's getting better. I think that there's a lot more interest, and I hope it just continues. I think Maryland's leading the charge here.
That's great. At some point, someday, hopefully before too long, there will be a post-pandemic era. What will Novavax either go back to or start? What's the next direction?
Yeah, and it's interesting. Just before this pandemic started, right as it started, we had phase 3 results of our influenza vaccine. So we were already on a really nice path towards commercialization.
Nice.
And now with COVID, I think a lot of people think that COVID's here for a little while, and you see some variant strains, and so there's a need for the vaccine companies like Novavax to continue to address both the original strain and the new strains, and we just don't know how long that's going to go on. So there is going to be a period of later pandemic, post-pandemic, endemic. We just don't know exactly what it's going to look like. But I do believe that Novavax now has created a credible platform technology where it's whether it's flu or COVID or RSV or some other infectious disease, we're in a position now to be a big part of that commercial solution.
No question. So because of the visibility, because of the success Novavax has already had and will be having, it seems to me like you have the opportunity to recruit some of the best and brightest. What do you look for in prospective employees? What makes someone really stand out?
Well, first of all, it's during this pandemic, we're in a position now at Novavax where we can literally recruit the best, the brightest,
Sure.
The people who just want to be part of this solution to this pandemic. So it's terrific. The people that are applying are so passionate and they're so eager to be part of Novavax. Personally, that's what I look for first, is that hunger, that strong desire to do something really special here. And then, of course, the talent pool, as I said earlier, is just incredible in this particular region of the country.
That's great. So in this era in our country, we are just recovering from such a divisive and contentious period of time. And yet one of Novavax's key brands, it seems, is partnerships. So, and that's been so heartening among all tech companies. People do seem to be collaborating, sharing ideas, sharing recipes, to use just a layperson's term, as a way of trying to find a vaccine that works and save lives. Talk about your partnerships, both domestically and internationally, and whether you think some of them will continue.
Yeah, we would not be in the position we're in right now without those collaborations. Starting with the earliest days with a group called CEPI, and that's the coalition. I'm gonna butcher the name now.
Okay.
Epidemic Preparedness and Innovation,
Cool.
and CEPI provided funding and a partnership to us well into the early days of March and April, before we had the credibility and before they knew exactly what our vaccine was going to show throughout the phases of development. We had Operation Warp Speed, who funded up to $1.6 billion in funding to us after that. We've had the partnerships right here in this region with the FDA, with NIH. These groups are instrumental in the development pathway, in the review, in the trials themselves. So really, these partnership, government, nonprofit, both globally and domestic, have been essential to our success during this pandemic.
That's great. So before we go to the Fast Five, Brian, is there anything you want to say about Novavax, anything we haven't especially discussed that people will find interesting?
You know, during this time, I've seen the employees who are working their tails off. They are working, you know, it's not uncommon to just be working around the clock. Meetings late into the night, early in the morning, 6 a.m., 7 a.m. calls, and the devotion has just been outstanding. And it's just something I'll never forget. A lot of people say this is your Super Bowl, and that's how it's felt like for a year, where we are operating on this stage where we absolutely must do something and must be successful. And I think everyone, down to a person, has had that same level of passion. So it's great.
That's extraordinary. Congratulations. How wonderful that it looks like it's going to pay off.
I hope so. We're very optimistic.
That's great. All right. Well, Brian Rosen, here are your Fast Five.
Okay.
So really rapid fire questions, and just for folks to get to know you a little better. So first, what is your favorite cuisine?
I like so many different foods. I would have to say Italian food would be my favorite cuisine.
Okay. What is your best quarantine purchase?
Oh, heat lamp and electric blankets.
Ooh, nice.
So do a lot of outdoor dining and a lot of outdoor sitting around a fire with heat lamp and electric blankets.
Sweet, very nice. What makes you laugh?
So many things, but I just like to see the find the humor in really any event. So I don't know. I don't know what makes.
How are you staying fit and healthy during the pandemic?
Yeah, with this work schedule, trying to run, trying to use the rower, playing tennis. It's not easy, but we do it still.
Good for you.
Yeah.
And the fifth question, Brian, that I ask everyone is, what is your secret superpower? What is something that you're really good at that most folks can't do?
Secret superpower. I was going to say finding the humor in different events, but I kind of bombed that question. So I wouldn't say. I don't know that I have any superhuman powers, but I think I've found an inner ability to work harder than I've ever thought I would have to before.
That's amazing. I mean, the world is lucky that you do have that superpower.
Well,
So
there's a lot of us out there, but thank you.
Absolutely. Well, Brian Rosen, thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you for taking time out of your totally crazy, busy, important schedule to talk to me today and to share this little kibitz. Stay safe, stay well, and please be successful so that you can continue your efforts to save lives.
Thank you for all your support. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.